So I thought I'd shoot probably a really suitable topic for the time being, which is the difference between these two different types of cells. Now, one of these is a bacteria and one of these is a virus. Now, the bacteria is the one that is sitting here, and the virus is the one that we see over here. Now, essentially what I wanted you to basically understand is a little bit about how these two little monsters basically work. Is what we know about viruses and bacteria is essentially what they do is they are a microorganism that is reliant on its host in order for it to survive. Now, the really interesting thing about a virus and a bacteria is that actually it technically does not want its host to die. And the reality of it is that if the host is dead, the virus is essentially going to die as well. So essentially what a virus wants to basically do is enter someone's body and utilize its systems to help it reproduce and survive. Now, there are a few different characteristics between a virus and a bacteria. Now, what we obviously, most of us will know is that bacteria actually, they can be managed quite comfortably through the use of either through antibiotics or some sort of antibiotic combination therapy in order to actually stop them for the more resistant strains that we see. Now, unfortunately, unlike the bacteria, which has got a slightly different shell exterior, you can see how these two cells are structured slightly differently. But what we basically can see is there's some similarities. They both have like a tail type end that allows them to project around our bodies and get through cells. They also have fibers or hair endings that allow them to fix to a cell. And what they both can do is they can both pass from the outside of our cells to the inside. And what they basically do is using that passageway into a cell, what they can then do is release their DNA and ask our own cells to reproduce the proteins for them. And this is the reason why a bacteria needs us in order to actually survive. Now, what we basically have in place is our own systems, so typically our immune functions, that will actually help to fight off these. So whereas with obviously bacteria, we can actually put something into the body that can actually assist and help, with a virus we cannot. Now, again, when we look at something like antibiotics, it's antibiotics. That basically means antibacteria. Again, it's derived from Latin, but what we know is that not only do antibiotics actually help destroy good bacteria, they actually, destroy bad bacteria, they also destroy our good bacteria as well, which is why it's very common for us to get other infections after we've taken a course of antibiotics, and obviously the most common one being thrush. And again, it's because it kills a lot of our good bacteria, especially around our face and around our genitals and around our stomach. And so it's always very sensible to take a course of probiotics after you've taken any antibiotics. Now, unlike the bacteria, we don't necessarily have many other defenses other than controlling the symptoms. So some of the symptoms of having a bacteria or a virus in your body is going to be fever. Now, the realistic process in that, and this is a normal process to occur, our body will want to produce heat. And the reason it will want to produce heat is because it slows down the growth and division of bacteria. Now, the other things that we might also develop is stuff like headaches, nausea, etc., etc., etc. Now, what we've basically got to understand is our body is going to want to go into rest and recovery mode. And the reason why our body is going to want to go into rest and recovery mode is it's going to be taking the energy that we would normally be using to expend on running our organs, running our muscles, running our systems, running our lungs, in order to actually drive our immune response. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take it, and what we have to understand is if we put 1,000 calories in our body has, same as a car, if you put 10 litres of petrol, you only have enough petrol to run the processes for those things. So if you decide to drive to Cambridge and back, and all of a sudden you're going, well, I haven't got enough to do the trip to the shops at the end of the road, you don't have the energy. And this is the same as our body. If our body is utilizing all of our energy to fight off bacteria by increasing our white blood cells, this is some of the reasons why we start to feel tired, why we start to get sweats, why. These are all completely normal responses. And like I said, what we have to understand is the differences between these. But what we also need to understand is that our body is not only able to recognize these, but these as well. And even with the COVID virus, what we know about the COVID virus is it typically affects more of the cells in our lungs and actually forces our lungs to actually almost damage themselves. It confuses our immune cells as well as our normal cells, and actually can start to cause damage, which is why, again, it takes a little bit longer for this virus to be fought off. However, our body has got the mechanisms to cope with it. Now, if you are displaying any symptoms of any sorts of virus, especially at the moment, obviously the best recommendation is to speak to your doctor. However, just be aware that your body has got systems in place and it will be fighting off those things for a period of time. However, what you also want to make sure is that we are looking after our immune system by eating, sleeping, and exercising properly, because what we know about all of those things is that actually it will increase our white blood cells so that we can actually fight.